Uganda's economy is predominantly agricultural, with the majority of the population dependent on farming. According to the National Housing and Population Census 2014, close to 80% of all households in the country were involved in agriculture. Agriculture is a complex economic sector comprised of a number of subsectors. It ranges from commercial production to traditional small-scale subsistence farming. Agriculture covers different types of farming activities comprising of both animal and crop production. Tobacco production and growing is a very significant cash economic activity. Tobacco in Uganda is mostly grown on smallholder farms by individual farmers who are often organized in villages functioning as cooperatives. In 2014, Uganda produced 31,000 metric tons of tobacco, ranking 26th in the list of top tobacco-producing countries. Despite the high economic returns derived from tobacco growing, the industry is associated with one of the growing socio-economic problem of child labor. It is against this background that the Evidence-Based Practical Advice and Social Dialogue Project was set up by the International Labour Organization and Elimination of Child Labor in Tobacco Growing Foundation. Uganda, along with Malawi and Tanzania, is one of the project pilot countries.
In Uganda, the project focused on strengthening of social dialogue. Through social dialogue, the project has promoted consensus building and involvement among the main stakeholders in the tobacco sector, in particular the public authorities, enterprises and employers, producers and workers' organizations. This involved capacity building of government institutions, workers, employers and small farmer organizations, enterprises, cooperatives, and district authorities to participate in social dialogue to address child labor.
This documentary presents voices and activities of stakeholders and the emerging good practices that can be strengthened and replicated in the quest of strengthening social dialogue to combat hazardous child labor in tobacco growing.
The first priority is to look at decent work in tobacco production as it takes place today and now in Uganda. So what do we have to do to further address child labor, further address other labor practices? And I've been very encouraged by all the measures that are already being taken here. Very encouraged by the industry and also by the farmers, by the local government, with your district action plan. It's an excellent starting point. So I think we just need to fill the gaps.
In Uganda, the project was piloted in Arua, Gulu, Hoima, and Omoro districts. It was funded by the Elimination of Child Labor in Tobacco Growing Foundation.
I think there are things that as from the foundation side that I think we stand ready and available and able to commit to certain things that I think can help drive some of these agenda points. If there's a gap and that gap needs to be filled and it's critical that there's a resource that's not in place that needs to be in place, then we need to really look at that and to make, because again, it increases the overall value of everything that we're looking for.
A national child labor survey conducted from 2011-2012 in Uganda revealed that there were approximately 2 million children aged 5 to 17 years in child labor. More than a quarter of children in child labor aged 5 to 17 years were injured at work, with the majority of these injuries occurring in the agricultural sector.
The legal and policy framework in this country does not address the issues of agricultural workers. It deals with the formal industrial workers. So the majority of more than 75% agricultural workers, they are excluded from this legal and policy framework. And what happens is that in the agricultural sector, there is the issue of chemicals. There is the issue of chemicals which is misused.
We have obligation to report annually to ILO on what we have done as far as safety and health is concerned, and we have to make sure we ratify so that we can comply, so that our people can be safe.
Being a member state of the ILO, Uganda ratified ILO conventions on the elimination of child labor.
The government of Uganda has ratified the ILO Convention number 138 and 182 on elimination of the worst forms of child labor. And if you look at the Convention 138, it requires that the ratifying state should have in place a national child labor policy. And we commend the government because we have indeed conformed in that there is a national child labor policy. And when we look at the Convention 182, it requires that the ratifying state should have in place a national action plan, time-bound.
The employment regulations of 2012 prohibit employment of children under 14 years of age. The hazardous work list of Uganda specifically prohibits children from certain tasks in the tobacco sector, including preparing land, growing and planting, harvesting and marketing of tobacco. Despite the existing legal and regulatory framework, child labor is still a problem in many areas of the country.
More than 71% of the children, as defined by the Children's Act, and those below the ages of 5 and 4 are involved in the tobacco industry in the name of child labor. That means there is denial for these children to access education. In spite of government having put in place the universal primary education, quite a number are held back in their homes to offer child labor.
In Uganda, selected strategic organizations were provided with support to implement stop child labor interventions through social dialogue. Project implementing partners include the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, Federation of Uganda Employers, National Union of Trade Organizations, National Union of Cooperative Movement and Allied Workers, Rural Development Media Communications, and Somero Uganda. The project in Uganda has facilitated tripartite consultations and undertaking activities at the national, district and local government levels, building the capacity of social partners to develop and implement policies and action to combat child labor. Through social dialogue, the project has promoted consensus building and involvement among the main stakeholders in the tobacco sector, in particular the public authorities, enterprises, and employers, producers, and workers' organizations.
Social dialogue, not only dialogue between the tripartite as we know them at national level, government, Minister of Labor, workers and employers, but social dialogue also right from the grassroots, district level, district coordination, the work which has started at district level with the district roundtable, work task force involving government, involving industry, involving social partners, involving the farmers, etc. So bringing the sectoral challenges on tobacco, but not only, talking of tea, talking of other kinds of issues.
The tripartite formation comprising of government, workers, and employer agencies is a key institutional structure that formed the foundation of this project. The National Organization of Trade Unions (NOTU) represented the workers' cluster. They implemented a project titled Workers' Action Against Hazardous Child Labor in the Tobacco Growing Areas, a case in Hoima District. The project was implemented in 2 sub-counties of Chigolobia. and Buhanika.
We are trying to address the issues of child labor using the basis of social dialogue. We engage the workers, that is not two. We engage the government, that's the local governments, and we engaged the employers on the ground in Hoima. So we are not going to have decent work in the future if these children are in labor. So we talk about decent work for employment. So these children will not be engaged in the decent work in the future. That's why we try as much as possible to be involved in the issues that relate to child labor.
Federation of Uganda Employers is a special fraternity of employers in Uganda which strives to promote best human resource practices and ensuring compliance with the labor laws among its core responsibilities. This includes, though not limited to, elimination of child labor at the workplace and by extension outside the workplace. Federation of Uganda Employers has been involved in the fight against child labor since 1999 with support from International Labour Organization. The Federation strongly believes that education and social dialogue are powerful tools which can be used for the elimination of child labor in all its forms in order to preserve the future labor force for this country. Under the International Labour Organization and the Elimination of Child Labor in Tobacco Growing Foundation project, Federation of Uganda Employers implemented a project intervention titled Employers Initiative in Eliminating Hazardous Child Labor in Tobacco Growing through Social Dialogue in Omoro and Gulu districts.
Our first objective is to make sure that the farmers' capacities are enhanced on how to participate in social dialogue. And then we are also looking at sensitizing the farmers, the trade unions, the workers, and other employers on the ILO conventions 138, 182, and 184.
The National Union of Cooperative and Allied Workers is a strategic partner in the implementation of this project. The union implemented a project titled Efforts to Combat Child Labor in Post-Conflict Tobacco Growing Area in Northern Uganda.
The workers come with the children, and also the workers, they are more affected by the occupational health and safety. We organize workers and we recruit them into the trade union for purposes of catering for their rights at the workplace. We want to improve on their welfare, and also we mainly include the issues concerning women, like the maternal protection.
A number of emerging good practices have been realized as a result of the implementation of this project. At the national level, commemoration of the World Day Against Child Labor is an emerging good practice. Uganda joins the rest of the world on 12th June every year to celebrate the World Day Against Child Labor. Stakeholders hold a multitude of events, all aiming and calling for commitment and sustainable action to address the child labor problem. The Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development takes the lead responsibility for celebrating this day.
As part of a joint global campaign throughout the year 2018, the World Day Against Child Labor will focus on the need to end child labor and to improve the safety and health of young workers.
We are here to celebrate the World Day Against Child Labor. And as government, we are providing an environment that is safe enough for you to grow in a healthy situation and environment, so that when you are mature enough, you can offer the labor to develop the country. So we wouldn't like to see children working for a pay when they are still infants, because their bodies and minds have not grown enough for them to take decisions or even to work a whole day.
Rural Development Media Communications is a development support communication agency. During the celebrations of the World Day Against Child Labor, Rural Development Media Communications implemented a mini program titled Raising Public Awareness about the World Day Against Child Labor and Protecting Children from Child Labor in areas affected by conflict and disaster. The public awareness and social mobilization activities conducted by Rural Development Media Communications comprise of participation in march procession, organizing press conferences, and providing media coverage, media publications, disseminating information education and communication materials, radio shows, and conducting community and schools outreach film shows. In Arua and Gulu, the local governments have been supported to come up with ordinances that address the child labor problem.
Charcoal ordinance strictly spells out that children are not allowed to be involved in charcoal burning, especially at the time of going to school. Then for the education ordinance, it aims at retention of children in schools. The children are supposed to be in school and well catered for by their parents.
Social dialogue at the lower local government, district and national levels is a critical and significant emerging good practice realized under this project. The social partners provided platform for the engagement of respective stakeholders and duty bearers. This is one of the social dialogue sessions held in Hoima district.
Most important thing is that can we look at interventions which look at all these aspects in the community? And some of these are child protection committees.
We should be able to document. All of these other key players should be able to document, and we are able to come up with a concrete evidence that yes, we had our DAP. It is for 3 years. We have now gone to 2 years, and we have done so far.
We can collectively talk the same language and advocate for total elimination. I like even the aspect of total elimination of child labor in the tobacco industry. We should be able to carry the same message to all people we lead, all people who fall under our ambit in terms of mandates, policy making, advocacy, and there we are.
A stakeholders consultative process was conducted by the International Labour Organization at community, district, and national levels to gather views and ideas from members of the community and a multitude of other stakeholders to enable them participate and inform decisions that form the basis of project implementation.
But when we discuss issues related to agricultural reform, informal economy, child labor, we know that we have to get more people into the room from the church, from the farmers' cooperatives. So I think it's really good to have this group here together, and we look very much forward to having an interactive dialogue with you.
Building strategic partnerships and alliances is another emerging good practice. The Federation of Uganda Employers established a partnership with Alliance One, supporting each other in project implementation. The partnership has been successful through the Agricultural Livelihood Program. This enabled building synergies and facilitated leverage of resources.
Our partnership with the Federation of Uganda Employers were basically dealing on child labor. And child labor in tobacco is a very serious issue. And our measurable standard under the ALP program is no child labor in tobacco.
The Federation of Uganda Employers, in partnership with Alliance One, ensure that tobacco farmers comply with occupational safety and health standards.
Protective gear, it helps us not to get any sickness, like a green tobacco sickness. and others. We have the gloves, the hat, the mask, and then you put on the trousers, the all trousers up to down with the gumboots.
We train farmers, we sensitize farmers on safety. All our farmers are provided with personal protective equipment.
Compliance with occupational safety and health standards is intended to protect farmers and enhance their productivity. This is expected to lead to improved level of income earnings and a motivation for stopping child labor.
Alliance had been helping me, teaching me very many things about growing. So that's why they gave me the motorcycle, they have promoted me. I was the best in 2015, 2016. So they gave me motorcycle. Mahindra, I bought a grinding mill. I'm paying with my children to school. Others have gone to university. The benefits I have the cattle you have seen. I have the motorcycle. That's the benefit. Even myself, you have seen me. I'm just okay because I have money. Anytime I want anything, I just do it. Last year I got 10 million. In that year I got 15 million when I was given a motorcycle. But this year I was expecting to get more.
Through this partnership, Alliance One is promoting diversification of farmers' food crops to reduce total reliance on tobacco growing. This is what is termed as One Tomorrow.
The company has come up with an initiative of One Tomorrow in addition to tobacco growing. What is One Tomorrow? One Tomorrow is about transforming the community or transforming the people we work with to live a better life. Apart from the income they get from tobacco, there should be an additional source of income.
Through a project titled Getting Children Out of Child Labor Through SCREAM in Arua and Gulu districts, Somero Uganda took the lead in implementing and promoting a school user-friendly and learning methodology that supports children's rights through education, arts, and the media, SCREAM.
So we are working to see that the children who are exploited in labor are withdrawn from child labor and put back into schools, of which these schools should be safe for them to stay. We also do our best to see that they are given vocational skills training for those who can enter the employment sector, and they have the legal age according to the employment policy.
SCREAM has proved to be a successful child participation methodology that is enabling prevention of at-risk children and retention of those withdrawn from joining child labor.
One, we have realized that the best practice for elimination of child labor is a multi-stakeholder approach. And we are using the SCREAM methodology to bring every stakeholder in child labor on board. We bring on the children who use their music, art and drama to create awareness, to talk about the dangers of child labor in their lives. We are talking to the teachers still through the SCREAM methodology, where we give them the knowledge that enables them to create a safe learning environment for the children, and they help to prevent other children from joining child labor. We have also reached out through the district officials, sub-county, the government, the community leaders, religious leaders, all using the SCREAM methodology. The reason as why we take up a multi-stakeholder approach is that if there is a loophole in one of the structures of the community, then that is the gap that the perpetrators are going to take on to make sure that they exploit children in child labor. So we ensure that everybody in the community takes part in the struggle against child labor.
Working in tobacco